memories are nice to pass on. Let me tell you some of my old memories of the old Champlain Canal that ran through the village of Stillwater. The towpath ran the length of the Champlain Canal and was used by mules and horses to pull the boats along. In the village, it passed along many residents' backyards. There were bridges across at the streets. The first at the south end was called Burns Bridge Road, followed by Campbell, Lansing, Lake, Colonial in the village, and there was one at Stratton Lane used by people on the north end of the village. There are probably remnants of the giant stones that shored the path in many areas. Other shreds remain. One is near where the cider mill on Schuyler Creek off Kellogg Road crossed the canal. The railroad had a spur from Mechanicville north running and ending parallel to the building called the Coal Pockets. The other side of the canal on the east at Lansing and Nielsen was Jerome Sullivan's General Store. Built by Jerry Sullivan circa 1880, it was a grocery with a receiving dock where deliveries could be left by the boats. A saloon was at the back of the building on the canal side. Nearby, there was a privately owned line barn where fresh mules could be swapped out with tired mules. Our playground went from the ice pond on the north to the Lake Street Bridge. Most of the time, it encompassed Champlain Lane to behind the Catholic Church. Open areas in some spots, and then trees had fallen or overgrowth had taken its toll, and then again a nice wide, clear area would be found. At a few spots, you had to come on land and use a well-worn towpath back to an open water spot. Many of the children walked the towpath from Canaries to Nuttings, and then down to Champlain to Stover's Hill and into the school property to school every day. Kids sleigh rode down the hill right close by the Stover house for years, with never anything but a smile from the folks. Mrs. Nutting was a grand lady who knew us all and shared not only smiles, but fresh-cut flowers and an occasional food treat. Also by her home in the winter, people left their Christmas trees, and men would come and mind the fire after dark while we skated there at the end of Champlain Street. Tone Henderson's farm lay across on the north side. A short walk past Canaries on the back street to Colonial Road put you back on the path. However, no one trespassed at the Bartlett property. Oscar and Ethel Bartlett lived on the back street, now called Major Dickinson Avenue. They were always well-dressed, impeccably groomed, and very particular. Oscar worked for the power company. Ethel stayed home. They had no children. In the yard were the most beautiful, fragrant violets one could imagine. Every spring we would ring the bell and ask if we could pick some for Mother's Day. Ethel would go out, check to see how they looked, and let us pick according to her wishes. We followed her instructions, gave many thanks, and delivered our prizes to Mom. They were large flowers with long stems, and their scent could fill an entire room. Their house was on a hill near the north end. Just below the house was one of the many canal bridges, and the rear of their grand tall home was very near the old towpath of the canal. High banks behind Fordham, now Hathaway, and Colomer, now Riley, led to the empty lot behind Hayes, Nyland, Rodriguez, Finnegan. At the end of the street was owned by Percy Aldrich, and a much-used path down a steep bank put you right down on the stone-lined path. The car barn was next, a huge old building where the trolley cars were once serviced, sometimes empty and sometimes various uses, including the town garage. Every year, pheasants were released into the canal area north of the car barn. They were raised in the coop behind Aldrich Station by the very active Rod and Gun Club. For the next few days after the release into the canal, Percy could be seen strolling the walkable parts of the towpath, throwing corn to the birds until they found their own fodder. Everything got dumped near the car barn, and it became a treasure hunt for young pickers. It ran into the Catholic Church area, and much rummaging was done there, where used candles, holders, books, and other church stuff would be dumped along with others' junk. A little home with a small lane coming from the street was Mrs. Perry's house. She lived alone after Charlie died and loved to see us. Sometimes homemade treats were enjoyed.